Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, I am Nick Savage, author of the Fairlane series, and tonight's episode of Drinking with Authors is of course sponsored by Four Horsemen Publications, and joining us from Sydney, Australia, if my slurred speech from Chicagoland is saying that clear enough for you, is best-selling author Linda Royal, and she brings with us her book tonight, A Star on the Grave. And she's working on the prequel. But before we get into the prequel, she's going to tell us what she's drinking. Then she's going to tell us all about the book and what it means to her, to her family, and to apparently crap loads of other people on this planet. So, Linda, let's start with what you're drinking.
Good morning, and excuse me, I'm coming off the tail end of a head cold, so I'm a little croaky. And it is 10 a.m. in Sydney, so I am not yet getting into the alcohol. I'm drinking Prana Chai tea, and it's a delicious blend. I don't think you can get it in the US, but yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
To join you on the tea, I'm just doing a little bit of a Golden Monkey. So it's a nice, strong, earthy black tea. But I do want to thank you for joining us. It is quite the time difference. It's 8 p.m. when we're doing this recording here and 10 a.m. there. So I thank you for that. I'm very excited because, as I mentioned before we start recording, you are my first international guest. So I'm hoping that not only I help you in the American front, I'm hoping that you kind of break us wide open into the Australian front of things, and we can be a little reciprocal on that help.
Yeah.
But the best way to do that is tell us about your debut novel and the impact it has on just so many people.
So I'm going to show you The Star on the Grave. It's available on Amazon in the US. It just got released. I just found a publisher in the US, so it just got published in March. It's been a bestseller and an award winner in Australia. 2 years ago it was released. So gosh, where do I begin? I'll begin at the beginning of how I even found out about this. So my dad was 80 years old. And my brother said, hey, let's interview Dad. You know, we don't really know we know a bit about his story. Anyway, so he stuck a little camera on him, started recording. He starts telling us this hair-raising escape from Poland, from Warsaw, in the dead of night at 3 a.m. He was 11 and it was freezing with my grandmother. And they got dumped in a forest by a Gestapo staff car that my beautiful grandmother had flirted her way into organizing. And then they came across a German patrol, and they joined some other refugees, and the German patrol said, strip, and they were about to be shot. And my dad recalls that a drunken orderly or whoever he was came up and said, what are you doing? Don't waste expensive bullets on these Jews. Stick them in that rowboat, push them across to the other side, and let the Lithuanians deal with them. And so they did. They got across to the other side. They met my grandfather, and then word got out amongst this desperate community that this Japanese guy called Chiune Sugihara was issuing transit visas to Japan. And so my dad said he remembers at 11 years old going on the train to Kaunas, Kovno, to the consulate, and they got these visas, and there were lines around the block. And when I heard this story and started doing the research, I discovered that this gentleman had illegally issued visas to save 6,000 people. So he's like, I call him Schindler on steroids.
6,000 people back then, and assuming normal family growth, that is tens of thousands of people whose families are owed to this one man.
Well, they say now up to 500,000 descendants.
So a little more than just tens of thousands, 500,000 descendants. Yeah. That is a very impressive deed that guy performed, something that I think only a handful of us could hope to achieve in our life. And so your book is an homage to his story.
Yes, I owe my life to him, as do my siblings and my children. And I decided, I was an advertising copywriter for 30 years. In fact, I lived in Chicago for 2 years and worked there in a great agency. And I always wanted to write something meaningful. And I thought, wow, here's my story. It started as a movie because I was used to writing TV commercials. That was my go-to. But then COVID hit, and someone said, nobody's going to the cinema. You're never going to get a movie up. And how long are we going to be in lockdown? Write the book. So I wrote the book, and I thought, well, I want to perpetuate this guy, and I want to make him a household name like Spielberg did for Schindler.
So question on that, and then with the book being based in fact and reality, is the story 100% factually based, or did you have to add some for storytelling elements?
Yes.
Any fiction? Okay, so it is a fictionalized kind of account.
Yes, but the publisher had this really cool idea, and it's worked beautifully. And in fact, I might even do it for the prequel and the sequel. So we've weaved through the true story of Sugihara in a parallel narrative. So every chapter or so, there's an italicized couple of pages which focuses exactly on what was going on in Sugihara's life at that time. And it's just weaved through really seamlessly. And then I've fictionalized my story, although it's based on the true story. But, I took creative license, artistic license to make it a really dramatic and compelling story, as Spielberg did with Schindler.
You have to. And I think any author, any writer that wants to write anything based in fact, you have to fictionalize and just make certain things grander, bigger, more dramatic, more, grandiose, because sometimes truth, as interesting as it is, doesn't translate to something as exciting to watch or read,
Yeah.
in the case of not having movies. 2020 was a very hard time. And for anybody involved, you know what I'm saying, in the movie industry at the time, they just completely shut down. And then these studios were just looking. And then all the stories, of course, became about COVID. And then they're all wearing masks because they're trying not to catch it and stuff. So as much as the timing of your book was, when you started writing it, it was kind of like the universe said no to it. I think a book format is definitely a nice way to go with it because of the readership that it's developed. And because of that, you've become a award-winning author and a best-selling author. So, I mean, do you have any regrets about that then going the way it did?
No, absolutely not. In fact,
softball question there for you. Do you regret being a best-selling author? No.
No, not really. Let me think on it.
This is not the hard-hitting interviews.
It was really tough becoming a bestseller. No, it was. Look, I really had my heart set on a movie. I really did. And I even got a grant from Screen Australia, because there are government grants here for that purpose. But it's just a very hard way to go. And also, being in Australia, it's a very small movie industry compared to Hollywood. So to try and glean interest from there, even though I've got an LA-based producer, and we're actually going to now go the other way around. And because I've written it as a book, and it's now looks very episodic, I think, and he agrees, that it would really suit a TV series. So we're going to look at doing, a few seasons and do a TV series. So we've already done an outline for that. And as soon as it takes off in the US, please buy the book. And I get some, I get known a bit more. It'll be easier to approach streamers and do that.
No, that's actually wonderful. I've known a few authors who started have a book series where it started, as like a movie or television idea, and just kind of ended up going the novel route, because then it's there, it's made, no one's stealing your idea, and getting it made is, hey, here's a new, original idea and original concept to be made into it and stuff. You say series, a couple season series. Have you and the producer thought about what a mini series might bring to it in terms of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've thought either a limited series encapsulating both the prequel and the current book, or a couple of seasons. We're not quite sure. And also because this one takes place in 1968 and is a journey back for a woman and her grandmother to thank Sugihara, whereas the prequel is the backstory, the whole escape that I just described, and the way out and the time in Lithuania, the time in Japan, and then coming out to Sydney, Australia. So it's kind of like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Like, you don't have to have seen Breaking Bad first or Better Call Saul first. We could, so we're trying to work out if we should do it chronologically or start with the one that's out and then go backwards.
Can we talk about the prequel that you're working on, or no? What can you tell us about that besides that it focuses on the escape? Anything you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. The general consensus with the Star on the Grave is that not the main protagonist, Rachel, but her grandmother, who was very heavily drawn from my grandmother, who was hilarious and larger than life, became the favorite. Everybody loved her. And I thought, okay, well, she deserves her own book then. So she's the main protagonist. She's 30, early 30s, escaping. And in my research on Warsaw at that time and what was going on, and the fact that she had been studying law at Warsaw University, but wasn't allowed because Jews weren't allowed to study at Warsaw University for quite a few years beforehand as well. And she had to drop out. I discovered that this Sugihara became what is called a righteous among the nations, which means he's been honored by the Israeli Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem, for saving Jews at great personal risk. There's a whole lot of criteria you need to satisfy to get that award. I discovered there was another righteous among the nations who was working in the Warsaw ghetto, getting children out and saving them. And so I've kind of incorporated that story, and I'm going to offer to the publisher possibly the same thing. Maybe we weave through her story in a parallel narrative. So, it kind of sits really well with the first one. So we've got a bit of a pattern going. And it's basically the escape out, Lithuania, what the situation was. It takes place predominantly in Lithuania. There's a big chunk there because I wanted people to understand the situation in Lithuania because there's not much about it. And the greatest losses for the Jewish community were in Lithuania. 95% of the population were exterminated, and not just by Hitler. The locals participated very actively and very enthusiastically in that.
It's very heavy stuff we're talking about here, and I don't want to like bring you down or bring you depressed.
No.
Are there, as someone who's not in the United States right now, and I'm going to ask, and we try and stay a little lighthearted on the show, but I have to ask because you are outside this country looking in, and you've lived here for 2 years in Chicago, 2 winters, as you said. Are you seeing, are the news stations or anything broadcasting stuff that draws parallels between what happened and where you see us headed?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Like, I guess, so I live right near Bondi Beach. That's my place, my happy place. And I mean, you guys have to obviously know about the attack there. And I know in the US with the gun laws and everything, you're not blasé because no murder is ever, insignificant or trivialized. But we have very strict gun laws. So to have someone go and shoot up 15 people is just unheard of, and touched us really greatly, like hugely, because I go to Bondi Beach most days, go for a walk in the summer and the spring. I go for a swim, and it's just our place of relaxation and a happy place. And the funny thing is that all the refugees who came from the Holocaust settled in Bondi because it was working class and it was very affordable, and it was like Shangri-La to them. It was this paradise. And now it's been redefined as another place of a Jewish massacre. And when we see what's going on in the US, the parallels are just extraordinary. I mean, the anti-Semitism obviously has just gone crazy all over the world. Demonstrations, for the other side. Now what's going on with Iran. our prime minister kind of wobbly on where he stands, but he knows that the US is a huge ally and he needs to stand with them. So he hasn't been balanced in terms of leadership, because he sort of allowed this to happen. But yeah, there's definitely, I mean, I've always found Australia and the US to be very parallel in terms of society and culture, and except for the gun laws, which, yeah, that kind of, that's the difference.
It's the first major school shooting that broke the national news actually happened back when I was in high school, or right around that time. And that, of course, was Columbine, which was the start of it all. And at the time, I was a kid wearing a long trench coat. You know what I'm saying? So it was, you get the looks, you get the stares, and you learn to deal with them, because I wasn't, one of the kids who was guilty in Columbine. I was nowhere near that, state. But, and then from there, it just gets worse and worse. And it happens so often now that you say we're not blasé, but in a sense, you weren't wrong in using that, because there's a mass shooting, by definition of what a mass shooting is, multiple times a week in the United States. And it's just, but the ironical thing on that is, my sister, who still lives in Chicago, is always like, don't come back home. It's so bad in Chicago. But me and my wife went to Chicago a couple years ago, and this was again when she was saying, don't come. And we were like, it's the same it's always been, And I think part of that is because of the size of the United States compared to the size of smaller countries. But Australia, too, is a much larger, it's its own continent. But I mean, it's a much larger country based on landmass and stuff, but you guys have the stricter gun laws. And I think that your country is something we can model off of, especially for the gun laws, because you've had one major incident in the time that we've had literally countless incidences.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good model, albeit with a prime minister that you say is a little wobbly. But I think,
I think, your things, it just becomes normalized. That's your normal. Your normal is that. And so it's just kind of accepted, and you move on. And there's so many other, shootings and whatever's going on, that it kind of just blends in. Whereas for us, this was so profound, but not only for the Jewish community, it was an attack on Australia, and non-Jews died, and the surf lifesavers got involved, and the whole community. And so Australia was deeply affected and wounded, because we're just not used to that sort of violence. So now there's a huge commission, a royal commission's been established to work out how this dude, who was part of a hunting group, was allowed to own not one, but 6 hunting rifles. And he wasn't hunting.
No.
Well, he wasn't hunting animals.
No.
So it's, in that respect, there's a huge rift between what's acceptable in Australia, what's acceptable in the US. But we always follow US trends when it comes to everything: food, movies, fashion, everything. So
I have not been overly exposed to Australian cinema outside of the obvious 80s films that I'm not going to mention, because I hear they're not looked on greatly in Australia. The crocodile one. The only other exposure I've had is this B movie, and I don't know if you've seen it, called, and I can't even pronounce it properly because it's a mashup title, called Australians. It's like Australians, but with the word alien in the middle.
That one I'm not familiar with. Maybe that was for export only.
I found it on like either Roku or Tubi. I don't know if you guys have the streaming apps down there, Roku and Tubi.
Not those two.
Okay, but it was on. If you have like a free streaming app, it's on a free streaming app. It's interesting. It's about an alien. It's about an alien invasion in Australia, and it's just this comically bad, but also comically good movie. And I'm just like, that's my exposure to Australian cinema, besides, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman and or not
Oh,
Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman and Mel Gibson or
yeah.
whoever was, from Australia. Which gotta love Nicole Kidman, so there's
Yeah.
that.
Whoa, hang on. There's Mad Max.
There is Mad Max. Now, Mel Gibson has had some bad press. He's done some things,
He
but
has.
his movies and his acting, separating the art from the actor, his movies and his acting has always been phenomenal.
It has. I mean, Braveheart was incredible, and The Patriot was in. Yeah, The Patriot.
Yeah,
well.
he was in The Patriot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just watched Braveheart not too long ago, and it holds up.
It
Sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that didn't age too well. No, Braveheart holds up. Even the Lethal Weapon series is phenomenal still.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's just the antics off screen. But we move past that. He's kind of made his apologies, I think, and kind of, at least as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I won't.
You're gonna keep your mind like, I won't talk about Mel. So you are in Australia right now, and your book's premiering here. Are you going to try and make it to the U.S. for any stops, or are you doing them all remote?
Well, I'm trying to do it remote only because it's a long way to come. It's very expensive, well, especially now with the fuel prices. The airline tickets, I cannot tell you how insane it is to try and get over to Europe or the US.
Yeah, no.
Prohibitive.
Might be cheaper taking a boat.
Yes. So at the moment, I'm trying to do Zoom events and whatever, but I am going to have to physically walk into bookstores and introduce myself because it's a small publisher. They're amazing publisher, actually, a boutique bunch of 4 ladies, California-based, who identified a hole in the market for female authors over 50 who were often overlooked. Even though Bonnie Garmus, who everyone will be familiar with, Lessons in Chemistry, I mean, massive success, is 65 as a debut author. So they embraced me because it was pretty hard to, I heard from an agent over there that once you have been published elsewhere, the US really doesn't want to look at you. They want to be the point of origin. So I was finding it really difficult. But these guys are awesome. But they're small, which means we haven't got a huge print run. And so it's not going to be massively, in bookstores. It's available on Amazon, but then people have to go in and physically ask in the bookstores, can you get in The Star on the Grave? Apparently through somewhere called Ingram. They say, oh, you have to order it through Ingram. So I've got to do a lot of legwork. And I guess it'll be New York, Miami, LA, the big spots, Chicago probably.
I would say if you stop in Orlando, you're going to have to hit me up. But Orlando is, as much as there's a lot of like smaller authors and there's these Florida-based authors, it's not as big as New York, LA, and Chicago, of course. No. Ingram, I should say, who has Ingram Spark, and I think a third kind of branch. They are, at least in America, if you want to be in a bookstore, no matter how big or small, you have to be printable through Ingram. They own like a monopoly on getting into bookstores. I use the term monopoly loosely because I don't want to set myself up for any lawsuits. God forbid someone at the company watches. But it is, let me just say that like I mean it. But it is, and Ingram has their issues. All publishers have to use Ingram to a point, and sometimes you'll order books from them. You'll get like your author copy shipments in, and one time I ordered them, and they were the wrong books.
Oh no!
They were another author's, and so I had to like look her up and like stalk her online and try and figure it out. And I end up like getting her phone number and texting him and talking to her husband. He's like, "Who's this guy texting me?" And I'm like, "You may have gotten the shipment of my books." And he's like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Nick Savage." And he like goes into his wife's office and he's like, "She wouldn't have opened this for like 3 weeks." I'm like, "Yeah, can we just ship each other the book?" It was horrible. Wow. But it's only happened to me once, and they've gotten better since then. This was years ago, but Ingram is the way to go. It is the way you have to go. So well, welcome to American publishing. It sucks.
Oh, yeah. It's so much easier here. I mean, it's funny because we're really provincial and we're really small, But it was so much easier here. I mean, the publisher just went, sure, we'll print 14,000 copies of your book and we will distribute them nationally. And they set up all this incredible media for me. So if anyone goes onto my website, which is just staronthegrave.com, I've got links to all this incredible stuff I did, all these podcasts. I was on national television. But to try and do any of that over there, you're so vast. You're so spread out. In Australia, we are concentrated around the coast. So there is nothing in the middle, just kangaroos and desert. And so we've got 26 million people just all living on pretty much the coastal regions and a couple of, country areas. But it's just much easier because it's smaller. So, yeah, it's been pretty daunting for me to, send hundreds of emails to people to try and get some exposure. And, thankfully you guys said, sure, come on our podcast. But it's really, really hard.
It is very hard. And actually, we just had a new coordinating producer take over. And she had kind of put out the, call to action. And we got overwhelming responses. And when she told me that there was an Australian author looking to make her US debut, I was like, yes, let's do this. And so I've been looking forward to this, since we kind of arranged things and stuff. And I'm loving everything she's doing. And we're hoping to kind of just explode with our listener base and, and viewer base and stuff like that. And so I want to thank you for being a part of this. You've been tiptoeing around the publishers. Are you not able to say their names, or do you not want to say their names?
Tiptoeing around the publishers who rejected me?
No, the ones who accepted you. You're Australian, and you haven't said their names. Can we know their names?
Well, the Australian publisher are called Affirm Press, or I'll put on my Chicago accent, Affirm. Affirm Press.
That was so good. I loved it.
Oh, because do you know what? With a name like Linda Margolin, which I was, and I would call Illinois Bell, and they'd say, welcome to Illinois Bell. How may I help you? And I'd say, well, my name is Linda. Oh, what's your last name? Margolin. And they'd say, Mangel. And I'd have to take on the American and go, Margolin. Oh, Margolin. Oh, okay. So I had to take on the American accent very, very quickly, or I couldn't get any utilities.
Oh my God, that is hysterical.
I couldn't get cable TV. I couldn't get anything because they couldn't understand me. So yes, it was very interesting. So Affirm Press, who've just been bought out by Simon & Schuster, so one of the big five. And then in the US, Sibylline Press. Yeah.
And they concentrate, like you said, on female authors over 50.
Only female, only over 50.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It is. And I am going to say something, and because I watch a lot of videos about the manosphere. And if you don't know what that is, do a shallow dive into it, because it's horrific. But for every man who's watching going, how come there's presses concentrating on women over 50? Because, guys, we're everywhere. We don't need specialty presses. We haven't been ignored and marginalized and forgotten about and gaslit for hundreds of years. We ruled everything. Now we're going for equal rights and stuff like that and trying to not be assholes anymore. So yeah, they need some specialty presses, not to gain an advantage, but to gain equality. It's called equity. Learn the difference. I just had to say it because stuff like that just royally upsets me when people go, well, what about this? What about this? And I'm just yeah.
No, it's really hard. I mean, advertising was the same. Advertising in the 90s was just such a boys' club.
It still is.
I mean, I worked in a really, really top-notch little advertising agency in Chicago downtown, and came back with this fantastic portfolio of work. And I would go into these male creative directors and open up my portfolio, and they'd go, oh, wow. So how do you get a job in the US? I didn't get a job. It was like, well, I'm showing you my work. Do you want to maybe offer me a copywriting position? All they were interested in was themselves and other boys.
Yeah.
Hasn't
It's
changed.
no, hasn't changed since the 50s. I've seen Mad Men. I understand.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm Peggy.
yeah. My uncle actually ran an advertising firm. I don't know the name of it. I don't know how big it was. So I don't know if that's where you worked back then. I don't know I don't know anything about it except he did advertising and it was successful. And I was told I should go and do it. And I said, no. I was like, that sounds like a lot of work I don't want to do. Instead, I became a writer and here I am. Yeah, but it is. And I think finding a press that focuses, you know what I'm saying, on one thing, which is female authors over 50, is a very good way to help, you know what I'm saying, get those voices, as we like to say in the industry, out there and to the public and exposed, because otherwise they get lost in the boys club of everything else that's going on in the world, you know, because people
Well,
look.
also, go on.
No. Please go. It's your
I was
show.
just going to say that we have a unique perspective that you cannot possibly have as a man. You just can't, especially over 50. And you're supposed to go, oh, really? You're over 50? You don't look a day.
I have no. I was going to say something, but I have learned two things from doing stuff in the industry: is don't comment on people's age, especially nowadays, because you come across as either creepy or insincere. And as much as like I grew up with all women, like my dad's around, he's alive, but my parents divorced. I live with my mom and my two sisters. You know what I'm saying? So like I grew up with all women. And so what I'm comfortable around often makes other people uncomfortable because I'm just like, yeah, all my friends are female, and you know, my wife is a female, and everyone's female, and I'm like, I never, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I've stopped commenting, or I'm trying to stop commenting if you know it starts to come up, because I'm just like, people can take it the wrong way, so I'm just like, like, but
look,
no.
The thing is that the point I was going to make before
sorry
put in a little humor there with my age, was that we have a perspective that you can't have. I mean, we're over 50 by definition. Many of us, or most of us, will be perimenopausal or postmenopausal. So we've got all that going on. So, you know, you can write self-help books till the cows come home about what it's like to lose your hormones. But also the fact that we're mothers, we've carried children. And also at this age, if you overlook authors in their 50s and 60s, you're just not getting a perspective. You're not getting experience, life experience. There's no way I could have written this book in my 20s or 30s or even 40s. And even in my late 50s, I took my characters to therapy. I literally took them to my therapist to make sure that I was writing them authentically. But I also had that insight that characters needed to be well-rounded and that people are damaged from their childhood trauma. And these are not the things that you know when you're in your 20s. You're still working yourself out and experiencing that trauma and trying to navigate through it. So it's crazy to exclude people from 50 and over because they've got this incredible wealth of knowledge that younger authors are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but we need everybody in there.
No, I think you're 1000% right, because, well, the US, I'm sure the world as a whole, but especially the US, is so obsessed with youth and looks and stuff like that, that being an author puts us in a little bit of a unique position, whereas people are reading the page, they're not staring at the author picture on it while they're reading, which allows the experience of age and life to dictate a good story over the sensationalism of some hotshot prodigy youth who's going to release one or two good books and then fall off the radar.
Great point.
And you're 1000% right, especially about the perimenopause and the postmenopausal. I remember my mom went through it young because she had a hormone thing. And I remember her in Chicago winters, which you've experienced. You get to tell everyone down in Sydney that I'm not exaggerating this. I can't translate Fahrenheit to Celsius, but 10 to 20 degrees below zero Fahrenheit which I don't even know what that translates to in
It's about
conversion.
it's about minus 20 plus Celsius, and it's beyond. You can't even fathom.
It's cold. She'd be
It's
outside in a t-shirt and shorts
yep, and
because
I
she
get it.
was that hot. Yeah. And it's one of my favorite videos on the internet is this lady, this black lady who's bald, and she's outside at like a high school football game, and her head is just steaming.
Yeah,
But you
I've
can't write
done it.
about that as a guy.
No, you
You've done
can't.
it. Yeah.
I've done it. I was at a dinner party, and it was freezing in Sydney. It must have been 7 degrees Celsius. So I'm talking in the 40s Fahrenheit. So it's not
Okay.
exactly freezing, you know,
It's
manageable.
cold. It's cold enough. Yeah, especially if it's
But
humid.
I was, and everyone had the heaters on, and I just went, oh God. And I went out onto their terrace, and I closed the door to keep the heat inside. And I stripped down to my singlet, and I just stood there going, ah. And they were just looking at me through the glass, going, what is that crazy woman doing? But yeah, the women understood.
The women understood, and the men who've seen it understand. They
Yeah.
can't. They can empathize, but I don't think they can understand because we don't get to experience that.
No.
And because of that, a man can't write that experience properly.
No.
We can try. Don't get me wrong. Anyone can write any experience they want to try, but they're not going to do it justice. You know, not without the input of someone. And why not just have the people who've lived it write it? I think that's a beautiful and a wonderful thing.
Well, I can't write as a guy. I don't know what goes through. I mean, I try and understand my husband, but
there's not a lot going through our minds.
Yes, I know.
Food, sex, TV shows, sports. Yeah, it's we are simple creatures.
Very. I'm sorry to say. Hence, you need the women.
Well, and it's true though, because when I write women characters, female characters, regardless of age, I run them through my wife, and I'm like, am I doing this okay? To make sure I'm not one of those authors. You know what I'm saying? You know which male authors I'm talking about. Make sure I'm not one of those to write, because you want the experience to be authentic and stuff. Which
Absolutely.
Is great.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, time has flown by, and I'm not even done talking yet. We're not done yet. We're not done. I'm having fun. Just now all I'm thinking about is hot flashes and perimenopause.
As I sit here wearing my scarf. But that's hormone replacement therapy. So it's like, what menopause?
Actually, my wife has been looking into that because we are of age. And I guess it's becoming very commonplace that as women start experiencing the symptoms, they just start prescribing it. They're like, here, take it. Take the hormone replacement therapy and stuff. It makes the transition a lot easier with fewer symptoms and side effects, or whatever you want to call them. I'm not making minimal of it. I can't think of the proper word. But no, I think hormone replacement therapy is great.
It is. I can tell you, saved my life. So tell her it's great stuff.
I definitely will. But where can we find you online besides the website for the book? What other, are you on social medias and stuff like that?
So I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Links to all of those you can find on my website, staronthegrave.com, without the. So just staronthegrave.com. I'm available on Amazon, and if you do me a favor and just go into any of your favorite bookstores, whether it's Barnes and Noble or locals, like I believe there's a big one in LA called Book Soup, or Zibby Owens, like anybody, and just ask for me and say, you can get it in through Ingram. That's where you find me. And find me on social. I will either be under Linda Royal or Linda Margolin Royal or Star on the Grave, Linda Royal author.
No, thank you. There are two things in your bio that I read that I want to address. One is that you are a massively tall person at 4'11", 4'10", not even 4'11".
4'10" and a half. 4'10" and a half.
4'10" and a half. I find that the shorter you are, the more you count those half and quarter inches and stuff. Yeah.
You do.
Is your family short, or are you just like the short one in the family? Are you all
No, they're pretty short. I mean, my late dad was nearly 6 foot, but that didn't seem to factor in. My mum was 5 foot. My sister's 5 foot. My kids, I've got identical twin daughters who are exactly my height. And I have a son who managed to get to 5'9", so lucky him.
5'9". He is average height. Well, the funny thing is my whole maternal side of my family is all short. I'm the tallest one on that whole side of the family, and I'm under 6 feet. But on my dad's side, I'm the shortest one in the family.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got that nice mix. But 4'10" and a half is a good, nice, it's nice height. But in America, it's too tall for a handicap sticker. You have to be under 4'10", and you can get a handicap.
I believe. I think it's 4'9" or 4'8", and you can call yourself. My husband regularly refers to it to tell me that I'm a primordial dwarf or something. He calls it, whatever it is, when he's really angry at me. He's 5'11", so he's
I'm not laughing at that. Your husband's kind of funny. But
I'm glad you think so.
He's mean. That is very mean.
He's mean.
You wag your finger at him and tell him I said he's mean.
I will.
Yeah. And I also hear, and I'm going to make you do it. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, I know what you're going to make me do. Oh, God. I shouldn't have written it.
You have your choice. You do that or recite all of your credit card numbers.
No, that one I'm not going to do. I do. I have a very, very, very good memory for numbers. I do not ever have to remove a credit card or what you would call, I don't know, social security card. I know them all. But no, you're not getting my credit card details.
Oh, no. I was hoping not to get that.
So go on. Go for the other one.
I want to hear the impression.
Okay. I haven't done it in many, many years. I don't even know how. Did we used to stand around in schoolyards saying who can mimic Donald Duck? We must have. But
we all had little odd conversations that taught us, these odd things about ourselves. If you can't do it, I won't put you on the spot.
I can. Give me a sentence. I'll give it a try.
Let's go. Let's do a self plug. Say, buy my novel, The Star on the Grave, in stores.
Buy my novel.
This is the best thing I've ever heard. This is the best thing I've ever heard.
Oh God, I don't know if I can get it out now. No, you know what? I've just realized when you're laughing, you can't do Donald Duck.
No, but that is wonderful. I love it. That can be what gets you booked on Letterman or whoever's still on the air nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, the author who can mimic Donald Duck.
Donald Duck, yeah. Isn't that what you want on to be known as? Yeah, forget the books. You could do a good Donald Duck impression. So before I let you get on with your day, I always ask everyone, if an aspiring writer came to you and you can give one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
It's a really difficult thing to do, especially as a debut novelist. Don't give up on yourself and believe in yourself, and don't listen when people reject you. I must have been curled up in fetal position for 3 months every week. Rejection, crying my eyes out, saying to my husband, what the hell was I thinking? Did I really think I was a novelist? And then someone believes in you and your whole life turns around. But unless you keep believing in yourself and pushing past that and having the courage and the strength, you'll never know. Just don't give up, because I've never written a book before. It's like living a dream. Dreams come true, but they do.
No, I 100% agree. when you put your work out there, if you don't believe in your work, why would anyone want to invest money in
Yeah.
it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So definitely, you are such a wonderful person to chat with. And thank you so much for doing this with me. And I hope to have you back when your next book comes out. So maybe we can get through a paragraph of Donald Duck. You'll have to practice it and stuff. It'll be great. We'll do the whole interview as Donald Duck.
Oh God. Oh God. Please no.
No, I would never do that. I would die laughing.
Yeah.
It would be great. But you have been so kind and so wonderful, and I thank you for your time. And everybody, look for her books. The Star on the Grave.
Yeah, The Star on the Grave.
Go into your local bookstore, ask them to order it, ask them to put a couple copies on the shelf. That way they can carry them.
Yep.
That's what it looks like. Do that, buy that book.
There you go.
And for everyone who listened to the podcast, watch us on YouTube, thank you so much for all of this. And Linda, stick around after the credits. We'll chat a little more. Again, thank you to our sponsor, Four Horsemen Publications, for making this possible. And until next time, remember, it costs nothing to be kind.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.